like a very simple sling shoulder bag. It is full of goodies, surprise goodies. So pay attention, listen up, and there will be a test at the end.
Just leave it on here to tempt you what might be inside.
Okay. Okay, so thank you again for joining us. And like I said, I'm going to talk about our Stewards of Saskatchewan programs eventually, but first I just want to take a moment to, maybe as a reminder for some, or as new information for others, remind you of who we are and what we're doing. Nature Saskatchewan is involved in a lot of areas, a lot of programming, and I just wanted to keep you get you updated on what's going on. So who we are. Nature Saskatchewan, we do have an updated vision and mission, humanity in harmony with nature, and our whole goal is to engage and inspire people to appreciate, learn about, and protect Saskatchewan's natural environments. Just so you have a really brief history, Nature Saskatchewan, I'm sure for many of you can remember many different aspects over the nearly 70 years that Nature Saskatchewan has been around, but just so you know, really quick, it's founded in 1949. Initially, Nature Saskatchewan first sought out to promote conservation of our natural resources by asking members, essentially by lobbying government and agencies on behalf of the natural resources. In the 1980s, though, the Society took on their conservation role one step further and began supporting research studies. And these studies are what we now have today with the Stewards of Saskatchewan work that we do around endangered and threatened species. And originally it was the swift fox, burrowing owl, piping plovers, and others, and today there are dozens of species we work with. So a project that you may all be very well aware of, which Nature Saskatchewan has often been identified, is its campaign for the establishment of a natural grassland park, which ended up being Grasslands National Park. So it was actually back in the 60s where the membership passed a resolution urging the federal government to establish a natural park in southwest Saskatchewan, which got the ball rolling. So we've contributed funds over the years to land acquisition for the parks, and with projects we've taken on, Nature Saskatchewan has grown from only a couple of employees to 7 full-time staff, as well as a few part-time staff throughout the province, and we also employ between 2 to 8 summer students each year. So what do? There's a lot, but I'm just going to give you a brief, quick overview in amongst all these chords that I'm not going to knock over. We encourage youth to build a relationship with nature, because where does it start? With the young. So Nature Saskatchewan runs Nature Quest, which consists of presentations, music, and storytelling to students in mainly grades 5 to 12, primarily in the boreal ecoregion. And their messages deal with the boreal forest, its diversity, the importance of large tracts of forest for habitat, in addition to the many in-class presentations throughout northern and central Saskatchewan. Nature Quest also coordinates youth photography projects with select schools, provides on-site outdoor programming with classrooms at the Nest Creek Boreal Forest Learning Center, and along with the First Nations elder, they teach treaties to youth, especially those in Treaty 6. Inner Nature is another program that promotes our vision of humanity in harmony with nature through unique film screening events about Jim Setti, a Saskatchewan Cree elder who was a part of nature who lived it. Jim Setti, The Way Home, is a remarkable story of Jim's life as an oral historian, tracker, and spiritual mentor, and also of his universal teachings, including his teachings about our connection to nature. Filmmaker Jean Corrigal travels to many schools across Saskatchewan, showing the film and using personal stories to maximize the film's heartfelt and universal themes of natural and cultural heritage, connecting the children to nature. And citizen science. We encourage people in citizen science. Naturehood, Nature Watch, and the Important Bird Area Caretaker programs are ones that we've always promoted as citizen science, but also Stewards of Saskatchewan is a citizen science project, which I will get into it a little bit later. But I just wanted to touch base because I know there's this great movement right now going on to be involved in citizen science, not just from those of us in nature organizations, nature groups that have been keen for years and years, but just those that maybe are casually interested and maybe want to know how they can help out maybe with the minimal time that they might have. So Naturehood's goal is connecting people of all ages to nature right where they live, which in Canada increasingly means urban centres. This fall, we held several events in Wascana Lake Migratory Bird Sanctuary here in Regina. We partnered with Wascana Centre Authority to lead a geocaching adventure in the wildlife conservation area. We held another geocaching event near the University of Regina, and we had a beautiful evening finding geocaches all along the paths. We also partnered, as you may remember, with you, Nature Regina, for a bird walk, and we identified many birds in Wascana Lake stopping over during their migration. Nature Watch is comprised of 4 citizen science programs: Plant Watch, Worm Watch, Ice Watch, and Frog Watch. These are Canada-wide programs that get citizen scientists to record the timing of natural events. Information collected from nature watchers is housed in a central database and used to track the rate of climate change across Canada. We also coordinate, and I should mention before I tell you about this, that Lacey Weeks is our Education Conservation Manager who is here tonight, and I'm sure would be willing to discuss if you have any pressing and hot questions for her tonight afterwards. She would love to talk to you. But she also coordinates the International Bird Areas Caretakers Program here in Saskatchewan. So these are sites that support specific groups of birds, threatened species, large groups, or birds restricted by range, for example. We work with birders and naturalists from across Saskatchewan, and some of you in this room are actually volunteers of ours that we utilize volunteers to work as the stewards of these important bird areas near their community. They watch for changes in habitat, conservation threats, and monitor bird populations. Caretakers are essential. They are the eyes, ears, and hands on the ground for 53 international bird areas in Saskatchewan. And I should also mention that all of this information, including the Stewards of Saskatchewan programs, is online, and I will have our website up at the end of the presentation. We publish books and support research. Published continuously since 1942, as Dale mentioned earlier, The Blue Jay is a long-standing naturalist publication that allows both scientists and amateurs to share their research findings and observations of natural history of Saskatchewan and the Prairie Provinces. Nature Saskatchewan has sold thousands of copies of its 34 special publications over the years. These are publications on subjects such as natural history that might not have been published in any other way, and so they provide inestimable service to Saskatchewan's residents. To support research, Nature Saskatchewan operates and maintains the Last Mountain Bird Observatory that you can see Al taking a break from in the top middle picture there. Al Smith, he's the head bander and caretaker of the Last Mountain Bird Observatory. The Bird Observatory is where scientists, and to some extent volunteers, have monitored the number of species of migrating songbirds for more than 20 years. Open in the spring and fall, school groups and the general public can also visit the observatory and see our banders catching and banding birds up close. Last Mountain Bird Observatory is part of the Canadian Migration Monitoring Network, which includes over 25 observatories across Canada under the umbrella of Bird Studies Canada. We also have, proud to say, the Margaret Skeel Graduate Scholarship, who is named after our wonderful, very own, now retired, long-time dedicated general manager who developed our program into what it is today. So please, you all know Margaret, and if you don't, I encourage you to get to know her. This scholarship is awarded to a student pursuing studies in a field that complements the goal of Nature Saskatchewan and to stimulate research to increase the knowledge of all aspects of the natural world. Research that will contribute to resolving current conservation problems have a special priority. So, we bring together people in the field, which also was just talked about our spring meet. We do have a spring and fall meet. They take places in different locations in the province each time, and they feature fascinating excursions in unique areas exciting guest speakers and information sessions. Our annual general meeting takes place in the spring meet, and at the fall meet, we honor members of our community with an awards program. Our meet brings together fellow naturalists from across the province, such as yourselves. Local natural history societies were instrumental in establishing Nature Saskatchewan, also known as Saskatchewan Natural History Society, back in 1949. With this long-standing and historically based relationship, local societies form a vital role in the natural heritage community in the province. There are currently 16 local societies. We own and protect land of natural value. Nature Saskatchewan owns or holds leases to 6 properties protected as nature sanctuaries because of their significant ecological character. Each sanctuary has Nature Saskatchewan members appointed as official stewards for the purpose of monitoring and protecting land. Management plans and biodiversity surveys are prepared for each sanctuary. The sanctuary stewards are also involved in the development and leading of tours of the land for members, school groups, and visitors. Several sanctuaries have established visitation schedules even, so I encourage you to look them up. And we speak up for nature. As I said, this is the foundation of Nature Saskatchewan, how it started. As we say, we are the voice for nature in Saskatchewan. Nature Saskatchewan is also involved in advocacy. Advocacy meaning pleading or arguing in favor of something. We engage in up to a maximum of 10% of our time doing advocacy, so a fair bit, but that is the maximum we can. One thing to note, though, is that Nature Saskatchewan, we're not limited to issues such as just hunting or just wetlands. We focus on any issue that nature needs an extra voice for. So some of the examples, a few of the examples of current issues we're involved with are the PFRA, pasture transfers, Chaplin Wind Farm, and we're still committed and engaged with the greater sage grouse issues. For more information, I strongly encourage you to contact Jordan Ignatiuk, our Executive Director or General Manager, and directly. There are his business cards that will be at the table after the talk. And finally, what you all came to hear me talk about tonight is the work we do with landowners towards habitat conservation and species at risk. Stewards of Saskatchewan. We work with species at risk as ambassadors for prairie conservation. Our prime objective is to conserve or enhance remaining habitat for a multitude of prairie species. This happens with landowners and land managers. With all their hard work put into the land, Stewards of Saskatchewan likes to assume and assure landowners not to change their practices, and we do this by telling them to keep doing what they're doing. If they have rare species on their land, they're obviously doing something right. We have found that many landowners and land managers are willing to participate in a voluntary stewardship program in which they receive guidance, information, and encouragement in and recognition for their stewardship efforts. Part of the reason for this is that voluntary actions involve a lower amount of risk to producers. Voluntary stewardship is a good starting point that can lead to stronger forms of protection. We promote conservation easements through information in our conservation toolboxes, and we discuss them during visits. So the first one, the model program, Operation Burrowing Owl. In the past 3 decades, burrowing owl populations have declined by over 90%, which is mostly due to habitat loss. They are listed as endangered, which means they could become extirpated or extinct. Operation Burrowing Owl, one of the longest running stewardship programs in Canada, was initiated in 1987 to conserve grassland parcels used by burrowing owls. Through Operation Burrowing Owl, though, the burrowing owl has become a conservation symbol and has been used to gain support for further conservation goals, including conserving wetlands, managing burrowing mammals, and the restoration and enhancement of prairie habitat for the benefit of all prairie species. Now, I encourage you, while I'm going to talk, please, if you can, see the letter on the right there is from Prince Philip himself. About 4 years ago, he hand-signed that himself, and it's just a very, very well-written summary of why it's so important that we keep doing what we're doing. Operation Burrowing Owl was initiated, as I said, in 1987 to conserve grassland parcels used by burrowing owls. Public awareness was increased by the presence of Prince Philip. He came and he released a burrowing owl to initiate Operation Burrowing Owl and garner support for prairie conservation and the protection of our species. Make note, though, of this one sentence you can see at the bottom of the first paragraph. It says, everyone connected with the operation deserves great credit for its success, bearing in mind that it is usually easier to start something than it is to keep it going. So with nearly 30 years under Operation Burrowing Owl's belt, there are so many people that have been involved in and instrumental in the success of the program. But on the ground, while we do the work and we do the planning and scheming in office, it's the current 360 participants and all those up to its high point of somewhere near 500, conserving nearly 150,000 acres of land for burrowing owls and other wildlife species that really deserve the recognition here. This is the distribution with 360 participants. Across this distribution in Saskatchewan, there's nearly 150,000 acres of land, as I said, just under Operation Burrowing Owl alone. The trend, this is hot off the press. Yes, I stole it, Caitlin. Caitlin Burrows is our Operation Burrowing Owl coordinator, and she is also here tonight, and I'm sure welcomes any hot topics you wish to talk to her about. But Operation Burrowing Owl has undertaken long-term monitoring of owls and can be used as a measure of ecosystem health. Operation Burrowing Owl sends out a population census to all the participants each year in June. The population status of over 550 sites and any land use changes are recorded. The 2015 census is now complete, and you get to know first. Operation Burrowing Owl participants reported a total of 24 pairs. This is a 20% decrease from 30 pairs reported last year in 2014. So burrowing owl, just as a reminder or as a brief introductory, if you've never seen a burrowing owl, they are quite small, so they can mistake you because we often see them on not just on a burrow, on a mound, but we often see them on fence posts and embarrassingly so, I'll admit, I'm sure everyone here at some time or another has mistaken a meadowlark for a burrowing owl because they're just that small. 23 to 28 centimeters, molted pattern of dark and light brown with white spots, pale brown to white underneath, long, slim, almost bare legs, so they look like little birds on stilts. Distinct white eyebrows and large yellow eyes, which is important to distinguish them aside from their similar look-alike, the short-eared owl, which we get observations of every year, a handful that come in thinking they've seen a burrowing owl. Larger than a burrowing owl, they're about the size of a football. They have short fuzzy legs, small ear tufts, they have sharp brown streaks on their abdomen, and their wings are darker brown with broader streaks than a burrowing owl. And they nest on the ground as well, so this is often where we see the mistaken identity come from. Shrubs for shrikes. Well, you know, this is my baby and I love these birds. They are my favorite songbird, and you'll see in a moment why if you haven't already heard this from me in the past. But Shrubs for Shrikes was piloted in 2002 with the Loggerhead Shrike as the target species alongside Operation Burrowing Owl. After a positive response from landowners, Nature Saskatchewan launched Shrubs for Shrikes in May of 2003 as a separate stewardship program. The Loggerhead Shrike is threatened in Saskatchewan, which means that their numbers are low and could become endangered. In 2013, the National Recovery Strategy for the Prairie Loggerhead Shrike estimated there were about 70 individual shrikes in Manitoba, 39,600 individuals in Saskatchewan, and 15,000 individuals in Alberta. Well, that sounds like we're doing pretty good in Saskatchewan, but this is why. Because their Canadian distribution is mostly in Saskatchewan. Currently, there are 176 Shrubs for Shrikes participants conserving nearly 30,000 acres of shrike habitat. In 2015, our census, which is now complete, There were 145 participants reporting 146 adults compared to 151 adults in 2014. In addition, there were 43 juveniles reported compared to 66 in 2014. These include both chicks in the nest and fledged young. This is why they're my favorite bird. They are a raptorial songbird, so they are unique. They're the only songbird with a hooked beak, and like a raptor, they have the hook, but unlike a raptor, they don't have sharp talons to grab onto their food. So what they do is they hook it or they impale it on something. So I appreciate them because their habit is to grab their prey by the back of its neck. So it's an instant kill. It's very humane, if you want to call it that. And they will then secure it because it weighs so much on something to feed. There are times where if there's a struggle, also they may secure it to hold on to it to finish the business. But generally they are humane hunters. And this display is done for a number of reasons, but the one that I have yet to see, that I hope maybe this year I'll get out early enough to see, is the display that the males put on. They come back, when they come back in the spring, the males put on a big catch display for the females, and then the female comes up and she decides whether that's good enough for her or not, and if it is, she will stay. And then following that, of course, it's used, the male will feed the female while she's sitting on the nest, and then the adults, once the young have hatched, they will go back and forth to the nest, and it was recorded every 2 minutes in an hour period of an adult coming back and forth as a grasshopper. So very great form of natural pest control. Loggerhead shrikes. So how do we know if we're seeing a loggerhead shrike? Well, we are getting into a tricky time, as Dale alluded to. There is migration, and there are two shrikes in Saskatchewan. There's the northern shrike that's here in the winter, and then it goes up north for the summer, and then there's loggerhead shrike that goes down to southern U.S. and Mexico for the winter, and then comes up here in the summer. But that migration period can be a little bit tricky as they're both moving. But and they look virtually the same. It's very tough to tell them apart. They are slightly smaller than a robin. They've got the black wings with a white patch on. In the middle, if you see them in flight, it's very distinct. They have a black tail with white bands on either side. And then, of course, the infamous, why they're also called the bandit, is that black mask that goes through the whole eye and across past the beak and through its eyes. They do have a couple lookalikes, but the one that gets most people is the eastern kingbird. The eastern kingbird, it is a bit different, and I didn't mention, but as you probably know, loggerhead because the head is so big. An eastern kingbird, its head is a little bit smaller, but what really sets it aside from the loggerhead shrike is that it's got a full black cap on its head. So it may catch you by surprise from a certain angle, but as soon as you get up close, you can see it's got the full black cap. It doesn't have a hooked bill, it's a pointy bill, and it's got white along the tip of its black tail. Plovers on Shore. Plovers on Shore was launched based on Operation Burrowing Owl and Shrubs for Shrikes in 2008 to work with landowners managing land next to shoreline that had plovers nesting. The piping plover is listed as endangered as well, and it is the first species to have critical habitat designated to its breeding grounds. Critical habitat is the habitat that is necessary for the survival or recovery of a listed endangered, threatened, or extirpated wildlife species. For the piping plover, critical habitat is any shoreline that has 2 or more pairs over 2 years in a 15-year window. The piping plover distribution you can see, again, mostly in Saskatchewan here in Canada. And, sorry, just so I can give you hot off the press numbers, that I should have just remembered anyways, because 4 participants out of our 48 current participants reported 16 adults and 3 young. So just to put into that context, there's just over 78 miles being conserved by Plovers on Shore participants. So to identify it, the piping plover is exclusive to the shorelines. They have sand-colored back and head. They've got orange bill with the black tip, and they've got orange legs. They have a single neck band, which is a really important distinguishing feature, and they've also got a black band on their forehead from eye to eye. And the reason that single neck band is so important is because it sets it aside from the common killdeer. And the killdeer is often found in similar habitat and because it is a cousin, it has very similar habits as well. Unlike the piping plover, though, a killdeer is opportunistic in that it will nest anywhere, including your gravel driveway up to your farmhouse. They have a black bill and legs. They don't have any orange on their bill or their legs. Their forehead does have a black band, but that neck band is too, and it's very distinct, and that's the main way to tell them apart. You can see a killdeer will have a little bit darker of a back as well. Sometimes you'll see them just usually by coincidence on the shore together, and killdeer right away you'll see it's a fair bit darker. Rare Plant Rescue. Rare Plant Rescue was initiated in 2002, and like other Stewards of Saskatchewan programs, was modeled after the successful Operation Burrowing Owl program as well. In the development of Rare Plant Rescue, Nature Saskatchewan pioneered voluntary habitat conservation for rare plant species and has raised the profile of plants as species at risk. Rare Plant Rescue currently has 80 participants conserving over 100,000 acres of native prairie rare plant habitat in Saskatchewan. Rare Plant Rescue increases awareness about the numerous plant species at risk in Saskatchewan, conducts searches for new population, and monitors known populations of rare plants in southern Saskatchewan. Rare Plant Rescue is unique in that a large part of the work consists of searching and monitoring for the rare plants on private native prairie. Each year, a coordinator, an assistant, and search crew of 2 to 4 staff will go out spending their days searching for new occurrences of plant species at risk, and then revisiting them to monitor them over time. The data that we collect is used by Environment Canada to learn more about these species, distributions, and life cycles. Population data collected by Rare Plant Rescue has contributed to 2 species, the buffalo grass and hairy prairie clover, being downlisted. In other words, moving to a lower at-risk category. This is a fantastic program, and it continues to engage landowners in habitat conservation. You can see they're, unlike Operation Burrowing Owl or Shrubs for Shrikes, this includes a whole long list of species. So the list on your left are federally listed species, and the list on the right are just a very small few of the provincial list of species that Rare Plant Rescue targets. But although we do engage the landowners right now through our annual mail-outs and our conservation appreciation events, the search and monitoring work has unfortunately been put to a hold due to funding. We hope that we can secure funds this year to start up search and monitoring again next year, and hopefully that aspect will get going again. The Stewards of Saskatchewan banner program, so like Rare Plant Rescue, unlike the other 3, it works with a whole suite of rare species. And this one primarily focuses on protecting habitat for any species. There's currently 69 participants conserving just over 15,400 acres, and is unique in that it recognizes the land stewards as landowners and land managers with any species at risk on their land, not only like the ones that we said before. So while it's hard to swallow, the barn swallow is an at-risk species, and it really, because almost every farmyard has barn swallows, it has really raised the bar for species at risk awareness. There are a number of initiatives, though, that many different communities have started for a number of these species, and anyone can get involved. For example, here in Regina, we have the Chimney Swift Initiative. These elusive birds are listed threatened and only have been historically found in the far east part of Saskatchewan until recently. In 2012, there were recorded chimney swifts right here in Wascana Park on Willow Island. Thank you to Al Smith for collecting that data. But I encourage you, if you are interested in getting involved in monitoring for chimney swifts, we're currently looking for volunteers all over the province, including Regina, and we feed into the Manitoba Chimney Swift Initiative. And you can go to our website, which I'll have up at the end of the presentation for more information. And if it's not already up on the website, it will be within the next week. So some of the things that our programs do, obviously you know what they do is they conserve habitat, and the landowners are instrumental in doing this. But how do we keep the landowners engaged, and what else do our programs do? So, as I said, our participants help keep track of Burrowing Owl, Loggerhead Shrike, Piping Plover populations by filling in census cards each year, as we mentioned. But and also if they make any changes to their practices or decide to move, they let us know this as well through censuses. But for rare plant rescue, as I mentioned, the monitoring happens by our staff. The pictures here tell the system in a circle clockwise from top left. You can see this is how it works. First, we go out and we find the plants. And sometimes this takes a long time, if ever. And once we find the plant, we rejoice. It is a huge celebration. Followed by a rest, because we've been going for days and days to find it. Followed by a snack and a photo shoot with the plant. We record data, lots and lots of data. We flag the species. We track the species with the GPS. And then we do more data recording before we leave. And we hide out away from the elements like Caitlin's doing in the bottom left picture. We have beneficial management practices that exist for all of the species. In particular, right now the one here is the Burrowing Owl. And we have many landowners that express interest in enhancing additionally land that they have to support their target species, and are also interested in attracting more species, not just their target one. And we help this through doing our site-specific species at risk beneficial management plans. Since 2009, we have been developing these plans for nearly 250 participants. These plans feature participants with satellite images, photos of quarter sections, and all the management practices that they are already doing. And then additionally, we recommend ones that maybe they could try to further encourage species. So just a couple of examples, one being that they could delay haying until after July 1st. This often can or cannot work with the landowner. This reduces the risk of collapsing a burrow containing young owls. Also, maybe this year, maybe after tonight not so much, but we encourage to plow crop fields if Mother Nature allows by mid-April, and this gets rid of potential nest burrows prior to the owl's spring arrival, which in the Regina Plain, you know, a lot of that is crop fields. We have BMPs, or beneficial management practices, for loggerhead shrikes and piping plovers as well. Shrubs for Shrikes encourages conservation of abandoned farmsteads, as they are a great habitat for not only loggerhead shrikes, but all biodiversity, such as wild game species like turkeys, sharp-tailed grouse, elk, deer, and moose. We also encourage maintaining old-growth trees and shrubs, as they provide perches for the loggerhead shrikes. As I mentioned, they're a raptor-like species, and so they are a sit-and-wait predator. The mature shrubs and trees also encourage them to provide nesting habitat. Loggerhead shrikes have been known to nest in most anything. There was even a successful nest discovered in summer 2009 in a ball of barbed wire fence. And I will say that nearly every year we have someone that sends us a picture of a family, a very hardy family, of shrikes that are being raised in a bundle of barbed wire fence. For piping plovers, we encourage landowners to keep livestock away from the shoreline during nesting periods from mid-May to late June. This may be accomplished through fencing and/or water development, which leads me into the next thing that we do is habitat enhancement. We work with rural landowners to develop a habitat enhancement program, and this was initiated in 2000. The goal of the program is to increase and improve wildlife habitat, focusing on habitat for species at risk. We understand that some of the beneficial management practices we suggest may come with a cost. So to help offset this cost, we encourage implementation, and as a benefit of participating in these programs, we provide a 50-50 cost share funding agreement basically with participants for certain projects that they can do to improve habitat for species at risk. These are undertaken with the notion that they will be beneficial to both the landowner and the wildlife. So from 2000 to 2015, we funded 129 habitat enhancement projects, resulting in over 15,000 acres of cropland seeded back to grass, of which I will note that 5 of those are native seeding projects, resulting in 388 acres seeded to native species. 62 miles of strategic fencing installed and 13 watering sites established. Conservation Appreciation Awareness Days. A great way to show appreciation, share new information, and get out networking and visit with others is through our Conservation Appreciation Days that we hold 2 to 3 times per year. For example, we held one this July in Hazenmore, and we always go out to a small community and we have it locally catered and delicious food, wonderful evening, information sharing and discussions. And in particular, that one in Hazenmore, as an example, brought in 50 people, locals, including 10 youth, which is really, really encouraging. So now at our suppers, we actually have a table that we set up for coloring and crafts for the kids to get involved in. So with all this, what's the goal? Biodiversity is the big goal. Many species, in addition to the ones that you see here, benefit from habitat protection through Stewards of Saskatchewan. Upland prairie habitat is home to many game species, as I mentioned, including white-tailed deer, mule deer, upland game birds, including sharp-tailed grouse, and is nesting habitat for many game waterfowl, such as the mallard duck. Healthy prairie and riparian areas also contribute to healthy water bodies, benefiting fish habitat and fishing stocks. Agricultural land management is the key to conservation of species at risk and biodiversity. And all species, including those at risk, can be indicators of the health of an ecosystem. So no matter the program that we run or the events that we hold, it is all for our vision of humanity in harmony with nature and our mission to engage and inspire people to appreciate, learn about, and protect Saskatchewan's natural environment. So what do? If you see rare species, you may not be a landowner or own parcels of land or manage land for that matter outside of the city. But like I said, there are initiatives like this Chimney Swift initiative that you as a city homeowner can just walk around, and if you spot any rare species, call our hoot line 1-800-667-4668 or hoot and let us know. That line will get to whoever is needed to be gotten to in our office. And I strongly encourage you to do so. We do have a privacy policy where we don't share any personal information without your permission, and even with that, we only ever share land locations of species, and that's for the greater good of monitoring and to help protect and determine abundance and distribution of rare species throughout Saskatchewan. So, I hope you were all paying attention, because this is my question. Now, I know I'm just going to give you a second to think about it, and I don't know if I should even let Margaret answer this, but there's this nice, keen lady at the back here that obviously is super excited to answer. So what year did Operation Burrowing Owl start? Yes. 1987, that is absolutely right. So come on up and claim your prize. And you can tell everyone afterwards what all it is.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening.
I'd suggest keeping them in the fridge until they're planted.
Yes, I will come and get some of those milkweed seeds as well afterwards. So I just want to take a quick second to thank our funders. This is really important because, you know, as nonprofits, we don't exist without them. And our photographers, I know, like when my grandfather passed away, there were boxes and boxes and reels of slides. And while we are super excited to go through things like these, if you all remember Keith Barr, he has donated an uncountable amount of slides to us. we rely heavily on photographers to be those eyes and share with us those experiences. So don't forget as well, if you're internet keen, to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and check out YouTube. We do have a few videos. We have one that we made for Stewards of Saskatchewan and for different programs. And with that, I just want to say thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time to come out in our fun, spontaneous, snowy night. So thank you very much.